of that kiddie pool we bought for apples in?
I think so, yeah.
Good, then we just need salt. Lots of it.
How much is lots?
1,500 pounds.
Well, where are we gonna get that much salt?
The Rage Quit Wire, baby! That's where you're gonna get that much salt.
Also, Clay's house.
Yeah, Clay's a pretty salty guy. Welcome to Rage Quit Wire. Got myself, Pete, here with my friend Chris again.
Yep, we're both here.
We're doing a couple episodes going into Turkey Day week. Turkey Day week, I guess that makes sense.
Yep.
Anyways, because I'm going to be gone for a week, so no nerding for a week. I'm going to go through severe withdrawals.
Have fun having mandatory fun.
Yeah, but it's not mandatory fun, you know, usually like I say with my wife. It's more mandatory family fun, which is definitely not fun.
Yeah, but this is one that is extra mandatory.
It's definitely extra mandatory. My brother's getting married.
Yeah.
So congrats to my brother. It's going to be a fun time, but definitely going to be lots of alcohol and other adult beverages around.
What do you count as other adult beverages?
I don't know, but it's going to be
that
interesting.
aren't alcohol.
All the adult beverages.
Okay, all right.
Listen, don't judge
I
me.
didn't know what other type there was. Maybe that booty juice? I don't know.
That doesn't make any sense. So we got a couple things that we're going to talk about today as far as Guild Ball goes. Those of you that are interested, we just got done recording our very first episode about Kingdom Death Monster.
So, yeah, check that one out as well.
Even if you aren't, like, even if you've heard about it, but you're like, hey, I'm not sure, give it a listen. We kind of talk about our experience because we just started playing it and kind of, you know, how it generally works. And it's a pretty fun little game.
Yeah, they also have a Facebook group, just like most of you are on a Facebook group for Guild Ball. And just like with Guild Ball, great inclusive community, very helpful to everyone.
So what we're talking about today is we're going to go ahead and talk about these new models that just got dropped during SteamCon because the second boxes for the farmers and the blacksmiths got dropped.
Yep.
We're going to do a new segment, and we'll share that when we get to it. We did a short tournament this weekend to end our Kickabout League. And it wasn't as many people as we usually get, but it was still fun because we had a handful of people that couldn't show, so we just played the tournament with what we had.
Yeah.
But it was still fun.
I felt like there were, like, people that had pre-Thanksgiving commitments.
Yeah, it was kind of weird because some people were sick because it's that time of year, and then we also had some people that were like, yeah, I got to work and family, and the out-of-town people we get sometimes, you know, they had prior engagements, so... It was still fun, though. We still had a good group of people.
Yeah, definitely a good group.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and start off with the new models, Chris. So just all in all, were you happy, surprised, disappointed with all four models? And those of you that didn't see, which I'm sure you have, Bolt came out for the blacksmiths. We had Ferris for the blacksmiths, who's the chick on the horse.
Yep.
And we had Fallow for the farmers. Mm-hmm. And then finally we had Skulk for the Mortician / Rat Catchers Guild. So general first thoughts before we even look at specifics.
Sulk, my thoughts are okay. Like I'm not really a Mortician's player,
yeah.
So, and I'm not planning on getting the Rat Catchers Guild. So for them, they should be thrilled. It looks like a cool model.
So you're just kind of like, okay, that's cool.
Yeah, it wasn't one of the highlights. For Bolt, my thoughts are good luck going through the process of taping up those bases so that you can prime your models.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, when they saw that, because he's on a flight stand.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people's thoughts on that are, I'm going to wait for the alternate model to come out.
Yeah. And so I think a lot of people thought that. Now, you usually do a lot of painting, so do you have any tips as far as those flying bases, how you handle those when it comes to priming?
Yeah, the easiest thing to do is just get some painter's tape.
Okay.
If you don't have that, masking tape will do pretty much the same job. And you just tape up the flight stand and then just go about your normal painting.
I've heard a lot of people like the blue tack. Have you ever used that?
I haven't used that.
Okay.
So, I mean, I think it's just your personal preference.
Yeah. Okay.
But like I said, I've used the painter's tape, and that usually works pretty well with those flight stands if you don't feel like, you know, working around it.
Okay. So that sounds pretty good. So those models look pretty cool. I'm excited to play with them once I'm able to get up one of those boxes. I am not excited that those boxes are now being sold for $180 on eBay.
Yeah, I mean, but honestly, I don't people get mad about that, but I don't, because it's like they went to the con, they spent the money to get in there, and it's not available for release. So if you really want it, it's a supply and demand thing. I don't have a problem with that. I do have a problem with, like we talked about on the last episode, with like the models like Lucky, where I think that's kind of janky, and it's like, come on, man, what are you doing? But this, I'm like, I can understand. You had a chance to buy the box. You don't like the farmers. Go ahead and sell them. That doesn't bother me.
Yeah, but here's what I didn't like about it. Apparently, they pulled the policy on only one per con.
Oh, so
attendee.
people picked up extra?
Yeah, so people picked up extra. And so I don't like when people jack up the price on it. I have no problem if you want to say, hey, here's this model for the shipping. I'm obviously going to charge more, right? Nobody should be out any money. And, you know, that there's some basic convenience type things involved, right? That you went out there and got it. But the idea of paying 3.5 times as much for a box,
So
that does rub me the wrong way.
So I agree with that. I saw, actually, there was I think it's a good deal. There was somebody that was selling the new Farmer's box, the old Farmer's box, the Muson Minis tokens for both those boxes, and the dice for like $150. And I was like, that's a little more than
MSRP.
than retail.
And you know what? I'm cool with that. Like, that's not what I'm
And
talking about.
it
I'm
was
talking
awesome.
about one box for $180. I think that there's some degree of you're almost taking advantage of
So,
those that don't have the ability to do
Getting back on track, though.
it. Okay, fine.
Okay, so what about so you talked about Bull. What about Ferris on the horse? What'd you think about her? Just initial.
I wish that they had more of an action pose on her,
Yeah, she's very static.
but I like the model because it's something new and something
Yeah.
different. I don't know how much I'll like the model as time goes on, because if they start including more of those types of things, but they're more dynamic, obviously some of the shine comes off of that model.
Yeah, and what about Fallow? What did you think about the old gal?
I think she's going to be a pain in the ass to play.
So you're kind of more, because she's also a pretty static pose. She's kind of just hunched over with these two like hand sides, because she's a Reaper.
She reminded me of Old Witch in War Machine.
Dude, and you didn't play me a lot when I loved my Khador, but I love me an Old Witch list with Infantry Swarm. Just, it'll mess you up like Percocet, man. So, because people didn't play her, she wasn't brought a lot back then.
I liked playing Old Witch,
So,
but we never played much.
So which model do you want to start with, as far as we're not going to go through the card, because honestly you guys can look that stuff up. We're just going to speak general, maybe character plays and some tactics we can see them maybe being used for. And I think that's the best way to do it, because I've already heard a couple of people dissect what the card stats and stuff, and I don't like doing that.
Okay, so I'll start wherever you want to start.
All right, so let's go ahead and start with the Blacksmiths, because they had 2 cards come out. So we had this new Master Ferris. Okay. So looking at Ferris, she's now one of the Masters. So how do you see her being used, do you think?
Let me pull up a card here if you don't mind.
Yeah. So just so people get an idea, she's on a 50 millimeter base, so she's going to be a huge model. She's going to be very Colossus-esque. So she's big. She's a big old gal on a big old horse. And she has 18 boxes, so that's okay. What, do you need to look at this? Do you not have that?
Yeah, I don't know. Where are you getting this?
I screenshotted, man. I do my homework.
All right. Sorry, I was just sitting there watching and trying to enjoy the experience.
I'll share the stats, and you can tell me if there's anything that
All
sticks
right,
out.
fine. Now I look like the dumbass. Great.
Well, I am the teacher, so I am well prepared.
Yeah, you prepare PowerPoints. Okay, great.
That's right. PowerPoint Ranger. So she's pretty cool. I mean, I've heard a lot of people not like loving her though. So I think her character play. First off, she's a fast model. She's a 5'10" with her jog and sprint.
Okay.
So naturally, she's a 5'10". She has quick foot, so she can get that up to a 7-12 movement.
Okay.
And she has a 2-inch reach. So that's 14-inch of natural threat just by herself before anything else gets cooking.
Yeah.
So that's pretty impressive for a huge gal like she is.
Yeah, but they did something similar with Colossus, where Colossus has a lot of movement and reach.
I mean, he's only an 8.
I know, but I'm saying it seems counterintuitive that the big model would have so much movement and reach, but that's what I've seen them do a lot.
Yeah, and I found that a lot of times the 50 millimeter models actually get bogged down easier.
Yeah, because there's more area to surround them.
Yeah, and it's harder for them to move around on the pitch. So then on the backside, she has a couple of cool abilities. I think probably her coolest abilities.
The best one is being able to attack.
Yeah, her impact.
On the move. Yeah.
Yeah, so impact, those of you that don't know, she can sprint, and when she does, she can do an attack when she hits a model base to base, and she can keep moving afterwards. So this is literally the first time in Guild Ball where you can move, attack, and then move again.
Which is really creative. However, it's not like you're doing a charge.
Yeah.
So there is some concern that it won't have as big of an impact if you're trying to wrap on the one that you're hitting.
Well, she's not going to wrap because she's attack 6 and she's a 5 wide playbook. So, I mean, she could wrap theoretically, but unless she has help, I don't think she's going to get there. She does have a double push on 4, so she could utilize that. There's also knockdown there. I think probably where you might see her doing this more is going to be maybe put stagger on a model, or maybe she wants to drive by and knock somebody down, and then she's going to continue to somebody else.
Okay.
So let's see here, what else does she have on the backside that's pretty interesting?
Does she inherently push other models when she hits them?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, the only time she does that is that impact, and she can only do that once per turn during a sprint. And I think it's only contact with an enemy model. It may immediately declare an attack against the enemy model without spending influence. So I'm wondering, can she do that to multiple models? Because it says once per turn during a sprint, when she moves into base contact with an enemy model. So would that mean just any enemy model she clips? So like if I go base to base with 2, I could hit both of them? I don't know.
The other thing that's interesting is if it's just base-to-base contact, does it say it has to be an advance?
It says sprint, so it has to be a sprint.
Okay.
Yeah, she can't just jog and do it.
Well, I was wondering if you get an extra attack, basically, like you could
Not on a
charge in
charge,
and then
no.
like move and get in base-to-base contact. Okay. Yeah, I think that it's interesting because nobody has that ability, but I don't think it's a game-changing ability.
No, because, I mean, she only can get 3 influence unless she's your captain, and her character plays are not going to do anything really to make that overpowered.
Yeah. And I don't anticipate her being pulled as the captain very often.
The only time I could see this being something like a thing is maybe there's a loose ball and she wants to get to that ball. So she could, spend the 1 to sprint up there, attack somebody, push them 2 inches away, especially if they're a 1-inch model, a 1-inch melee model, and then go get the ball, and she could technically kick it. Her kick's not great. It's a 2-6, but she could. So, I mean, she could do that.
Yeah.
She also has a cool ability. It's called Give It a Whack. So when a free ball is within the model's melee zone, so 2 inches, she may do a kick as if she had possession of the ball. So if you look at the model, she actually looks like she has like a croquet mallet almost.
Yeah.
So she's just riding through and just kicking it around.
Well, that does fit with the blacksmiths as a whole. They are able to manipulate that ball a lot better.
Yeah,
than
and this is the
everybody
thing
else.
I think is so tough with these blacksmiths is they have so many different abilities. Like it's not even like it would be different if like Kill Ball was the only ability they had that was.
People are going to have a lot of gotcha moments with.
Yeah,
these guys.
no, because it's just there's so many ways for them to peel that ball off. It's kind of ridiculous. Like we have used tactics before where we just leave the ball in free space. You can't do that against this guild.
Yeah, and the nice thing is, the people at Steamforge, the game designers, have probably noticed that people have played that way, where they try to kill that ball and just turtle in, and they've created a guild that solves that problem.
Yeah, definitely. So, looking at this, the last thing I'll talk about is her legendary, which I don't think her legendary is anything to write home about. So, it's basically called Ride Off. It's actually, it could be cool, but the ball's got to be there. Once again, this is a different way for them to get the ball, and this gets around close control. So, just reading this mainly for Chris's benefit because he didn't do his homework. So,
I didn't know I had to screenshot the keynote or something like that.
all right. So, when this model inflicts the push,
You could have texted me these pictures.
well, I like to make you look like you're
Thanks.
not prepared.
Okay.
I actually was thinking about them, like, man, I guess I could send them real quick. Maybe I will here in a minute. But
You are a dick.
so When she does a push to an enemy model that is in possession of the ball marker, after resolving the push, the enemy loses possession of the ball. So she just pushes you, and you'll lose possession.
And is that like a knockdown scatter?
Yep.
Okay.
So it's just another way to pry that ball loose.
Okay.
And her legendary...
But she doesn't necessarily get it.
No, I mean, but it like those people with close control, like Velocity. She just, gets pushed once, because I think she has a push on one, actually.
Cool.
No, it's on two. So she would need 2 hits to do it. Anyways.
And what changes about that legendary play if she's the captain?
If she's the captain, all friendly models get within 6 inches of her aura, they get Give It a Whack. So Give It a Whack, once again, is that whole, if it's within your melee zone, you can act like you're kicking it.
Okay.
Yep.
So the one thing that I think is kind of interesting about this guild is they're going to be more scory. I think that's what a lot of people anticipate. And with these abilities where you have to be within 6 inches or whatever it might be, a master interacts with an apprentice for the legendary play. That's interesting because normally when you have a guild that wants to spread out and be scory, there's a lot of space between those models. So it does kind of manage how far apart you can get some of those models depending on which abilities you want to be using, masters to apprentices, etc.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that works out.
I think with the blacksmiths, and I've already seen this with when I played against Jake specifically, they're definitely going to be in pairs. Like, they work well in pairs. It's that whole where there's one, you see the other.
And I like the idea of those little two-man games.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, because as a farmer player, I want to bunch up, and I have to make decisions on, okay, which way am I going with this?
Yeah.
So it's definitely cool. So her apprentice is Bolt, and he is probably now my favorite blacksmith. He's like this super jump guy, and I love everything about him. He's the speed freak in the group, and it's very deceiving, though, because he only has a 4-6 movement. But he has something called, I believe it's called stamina, and basically he makes a jog at the beginning of his turn. So he just gets a free 4-inch jog. And then he has a 4-6, so then you can either jog him another, that'll bring you to 8, or you can sprint him or charge to bring it to 10.
Okay.
So he's basically an 8-10.
Okay.
And he has I'm Open.
Oh, that's good.
And he can do that, or he can do his, oh my god, the Shoomerang. Have you heard about the Shoomerang yet?
No.
Honestly, who throws a shoe? So anyways, when he's within 6 inches of Ferris, he gets to do a character play for free. So,
Oh, that'll be nice.
yeah, so he can do I'm Open for free. So if those of you that are not familiar, he can have somebody else pass him the ball out of their activation. Shoomerang is a cool little ability, Chris. I think you're going to like this. You ready?
Okay, let's hear it.
So it's basically a target model suffers 2 damage. An enemy model within 4 inches of the target model suffers the knockdown condition. So he basically throws this horseshoe, it bounces off, knocks somebody down, and then comes back to him.
Wow.
Now, here's the jank part about it. You ready for the jank?
Oh, that's not the jank part?
No.
Okay.
The jank part is you could target a friendly model, because it doesn't say enemy model. You automatically hit your friendly, and you knock down an enemy model.
Oh, so you take somebody like Iron that's got tough hide that's only going to take 1 anyway.
Yep.
And then...
Knock somebody down.
And you can choose who gets knocked down?
Within 4 inches.
What about if somebody's playing farmers and they have Millstone? Is Millstone going to take that instead?
If the model being knocked down is in her aura, yeah.
It'd be nice if you could overcome that.
Yeah, well, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, not sorry.
Of course, the farmers have an answer to it.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's pretty interesting how they're really pairing these farmers and blacksmiths off against each other. Like one wants to do a crap ton of damage and the other one wants to score like nobody's business.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's interesting. That'll be fun. I'm excited to get
I am
those.
not looking forward to that because I can see you doing some really weird
Yeah, I'm
things.
going to be a dick to you because you've been a dick with those farmers.
That's
So
fair enough.
I'm excited to get that box, and I'm not going to pay $180 for it.
So those of you kind of keeping track though here. So in Bolt's perfect world, so he gets, let's say, 10 inches of movement just from his movement. Okay, he gets a free character play, so let's say he does I'm Open for free. So he gets the ball from somebody. So he gets 4-inch dodge, so that's 14 inches of movement. Okay. So he also has a 6-inch kick, so that's 20 inches of movement. And if you really
How
want
much is the I'm Open cost?
2, but you can do it for free if you're next to Ferris.
Okay, so what you could do here is 4 plus 6, so you're at 10. Then you could kick 2 an opposing model, or 2 a friendly model, excuse me. Take a 4-inch dodge, so you're at 14.
Free I'm Open for another 4-inch.
Free I'm Open for another 4-inch.
So it's like 24.
Now you're at 18, and then what's his kick?
6, so 24-inch
Okay,
threat.
Yeah, that's unreal.
That's ideal. So
Well, and not only that's a 24-inch threat, but you will have used so far 2 influence, and then your last one will be the score. Okay.
Yep.
So, man, they gave him a 24-inch threat, and it's a legitimate threat because you can actually do all the things with all the influence you have.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's dynamic.
So the problem is, though, Ferris is a cool model, and she does some cool things, but those other masters are pretty good.
So just don't make her the captain.
See, but the thing is, though, I think the other masters bring you more than she would. Like, I think you would rather bring Ferrite, you'd rather bring Hearth, and you would rather bring...
Well, I gotta wait till I put them on the table, and then
I'm
we'll
missing
find out.
somebody. Maybe Furnace. So, yeah. So she's interesting, though. I like her. She doesn't do a ton of damage. Like these blacksmiths, most of their damage is non-momentous. There's only a couple of apprentices that do momentous damage.
Yeah, and it's a trap.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I tried doing the takeout game with them, and it worked, but they're meant to score for sure.
Yeah.
That's why I want to make iron work. I just don't know how to make iron work. Like, Iron's like the master blacksmith, and I feel like he has a place somewhere. I just don't know
No,
where
you're
it
talking
is.
about Anvil.
Or, sorry, thank you very much. Yeah, I meant Anvil.
You're gonna make it look like both of us don't know what we're talking
Who
about.
did I say?
Iron. He's
Oh.
not even a master.
He's not.
So, okay, Anvil.
Iron,
Yes,
Anvil,
Anvil's your favorite.
Metal, bolts, Ferris Bueller's Day Off. I don't know. When Cameron was in Egypt land,
What is wrong with you?
let my Cameron go.
Okay, so yes, I think that people will have to play around with the blacksmith's box and different combinations, and I think we're going to find people that figure out ways to split up master and apprentice, and they say, hey, I'm willing to sacrifice this or that in order to... I will tell you, though, if you're trying to score, and just for him being able to do that free I'm Open, that might be worth taking her.
Yeah, I mean, she's not terrible. She's a 2 defense, though, so she's like the rest of them. That's the easiest sin to hit. So I think it's just going to take some play testing just to see it, but Bolt's good. I like him.
Yeah, Bolt's cool.
But, yeah,
Especially if you get to play with him as Usain Bolt.
Yeah, that model, man. Phew.
Neato.
So let's go. We're going to switch to Fallow, and just a quick shout out once again to Midwest Gaming, Wargaming. Those guys are really putting out some high quality like articles and
I
stuff.
feel like across the country we're kind of becoming buddies.
Yeah.
Because I know that I've
Well, I
talked
got that.
with...
You and me both almost. Well, you have that Mountain West. I'm the Midwest. I'm from Kansas for a decade, and you were in Utah for a while.
Yeah.
So we definitely have a connection, I think. But because we've talked with them a lot, actually.
Yeah.
So
I talked with Dan a number of times via...
they put out a
direct message.
really good article. Like, you guys need to check this out. Even if you just need to figure out what the farmers do, the farmers, they get broken down like very surgically in this article, like very statistically. They match up their stats against the rest of the guilds. They tell you what percentages their choices are. Tell you strong lineups, who's good, who's not. Really solid breakdown. The only thing I disagreed with was their breakdown on Wendell. They didn't say anything incorrect, but I think if you're a skilled enough player, you can really get around Wendell's downfalls and use him to be a monster.
I will say this, though, and part of what I'm looking at with this breakdown is you can look across the stat line, for instance, when they compare the guild individually to the rest of the game, and it looks like they're weaker models. But I know for a fact they're not.
Well, and they actually mentioned this. If you read through the whole thing, they're like, a lot of those stats are because like they depend on buffs and they have ways to increase their stats.
Yeah, so I guess my only warning is, and Midwest Gaming does a great job with this, but my only warning is if you take a peek at this article, and please do, don't just look at the charts and graphs and think that you're getting the whole story. You have to read the explanations. I think it's JD that wrote
if
this,
you're
right?
if you're one of these, millennials, and you are getting your 30-second information, you need to read this actual article, because if you go in this just skimming through it and doing your quick click, okay, I'm done with it, you're going to miss the main ideas of this, and you're not going to get what you need out of this article. It's got really awesome information.
Yeah, so specifically the sections where it gets into character plays and character traits, make sure to read that closely. That will give you a lot of good info. And I think that they, once again, have put together a great article on Guild Ball.
I agree. And I'm hoping that they're going to be, and I think we'll message them to check it out, but hopefully they'll be at the American Team Championships up in Milwaukee.
That'd be awesome.
And maybe we can meet up and get some drinks with them.
Maybe we can do some battle with them.
Hell yeah, man.
That's
We're
what I
gonna
want to
throw
do.
down. So Fallow is the last model that we want to talk about. Skulk's interesting, but I think he's got a weird playbook and he's a weird guy. I'm not going to focus on him because he's a rat catcher and they don't exist yet. So I'm being biased towards him. But those of you that are morticians, check him out. Fallow is interesting. When I first saw her and I saw she was a Reaper, I looked at her attack and stuff. I'm like, what the hell is this chick supposed to be doing? She has Stuck In, which Stuck In, I'm like,
Wait, I can tell you what she's supposed to be doing in a nutshell.
Oh, okay, go ahead, Mr. Interrupting.
Being a pain in the ass.
That is pretty solid. So once I've examined this, there's some key things here. First off, she does some momentous damage. She has a 6-wide playbook, so you're like, how is she going to get to this 6-wide playbook with TAC 3? Well, there's a little rule on the back that says with age comes wisdom. So basically, after each of your models activate, she gets +1 TAC. So now she is not TAC 3. She could possibly be TAC 9. If she's the last... No, sorry, not TAC 9. TAC 8 if she's the last one.
It creates a really messed up pick your poison scenario because basically, while at the beginning of the turn, she's not a threat, and so you would want to key in on Tater or Grange or whomever.
If you let her by...
By the end of the turn, she's a huge threat. So that becomes a big issue.
Here's another problem. So let's say, Chris, a lot of times when we're playing a game, you look at where the influence is to determine how the game's going to go or the turn's going to go, right? You're like, oh, there's
Correct.
5 on Grange, there's 2 on Tater, so you know who you got to key on, right? You see 0 on Fallow, and you're going to get tricked because you're like, oh, I don't have to worry about her. The problem is she can go ahead and generate 2 influence for each harvest marker she pulls up.
Okay.
And she can get a max of 5, so if you pull up 3 harvest markers, she all of a sudden has 5 influence.
Yeah, that's...
So that's what I'm saying. And then she's...
Although I hope somebody makes a mistake of using their harvest markers that way.
Well, that's what I'm saying is you got to definitely balance it. But she can definitely... She's going to replace Wendell in my hunter matchups, my fisherman matchups.
Those ones where it's easy to manipulate.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The ones that Midwest Gaming was talking about where he can be controlled easily. Fallow is going to go in there for me. Definitely.
Yeah.
Because she's a lot quicker. She does almost as much damage. I mean, especially under honest labor or something. Definitely can still output. Let's see here. She also has the same rule that Granite has, where if somebody gets attacked, she can do a jog if she's within 4 inches of the action.
Yeah. I almost think the best way to neutralize her is, and easier said than done, of course, is killing other models so that she doesn't have their activations to wind up.
So this brings up to the protective instinct. This is probably the rule that Chris hates the most. Do you want to explain it, Chris?
Yeah, sure, I'll explain it. Basically, instead of you being able to choose what your priorities are and who you would like to take out, as most people would want to play a game, the farmers, as
have
they
a
tend
taunt
to
ability.
do, have an ability to be like, fuck you, you have to take out the models I want you to take out.
So you can get around it, but...
No, you can't.
Well, you can. Here's how you get around it. So... Okay, so it's a little harder than... Because
I just know that at the end of this I'm going to be like, shut the fuck up.
So you got to stay... Because you're a melee, you cannot be engaged with her. If you are engaging her, you have to attack her.
Yeah, that's real nice.
But, so what you do is you stay your melee zone out of her. The problem is if you start damaging a model that's next to her, she can jog next to you.
Yeah, see, shut the fuck up. So, what's going to happen is there's going to be these models that are
It's only once per turn, though.
what
that she can jog towards you.
That's all you need. But so here's what's going to happen. You're going to have a model that's going in with 2-inch reach, for instance. And she won't be able to engage that model, but she will be able to get to the point where that model is engaging her, thus redirecting its attack. So this is what's going to happen all the fucking time. Is she will be there with supporting Tater or Grange, one of those models.
She'll be the follow-up piece.
She'll be the follow-up piece. And so someone's going to come in, they're going to attack
She's going to move in.
No, she's not going to move in right away. The way people are going to use her if they're smart is they let that model attack Grange or Tater and do some damage. Maybe get them halfway down.
Oh, you're talking about next
And
activation.
then bring it up on a following activation or a following attack after they're down a ways, and then make her absorb the rest. Thus, both models live because you haven't been able to do enough damage on either.
It's spreading out your damage in a guild that already can heal a lot.
Yeah, so it's just fucking horse shit. I
So-
don't know. There's not a model. I wish that the blacksmiths got these models that do unbelievable things like this.
They have some pretty cool things.
They do some cool things, I agree, but we just talked about the 2 models that we just got reveals on. And while they do cool things, it takes a lot of setup and it takes a lot of planning as it relates to your list. I feel like those farmers, you can just throw them together almost however, and you're just going to...
Well, you really can't. And I think, and we're not going to turn this into another farmer discussion, but I really prefer Grange over Thresher, and it has to deal a lot with how those harvest markers are used. And Thresher got tore down in a couple of those games in that last chance qualifier. I mean, he got beat up. I think if a lot of farmer players give
That's
Grange,
because they think that Thresher is the A play.
so he's good into certain
Grange
matchups.
is absolutely the A play. He
But
should be the default.
I think Grange is the better captain when it comes to setup, when it comes to a strong team. I think he's better at using the harvest markers than Thresher is, and I think the harvest
Yeah, because
markers
he makes more of them.
is what makes the farmers like a challenge because it gives them the extra influence, it gives them the extra attacks.
Pete, why wouldn't you just run over the harvest markers? That's
Okay, we're not. We already talked about this.
Yeah, okay, so...
Check out our farmers podcast for Chris freaking out.
Yeah.
All right. So look at
You brought this up. You brought it upon yourself.
we got new models.
Okay.
Gotta check out
All
the
right,
new
fine.
model.
Great.
So anyways, they're cool models. Like I said, we're not going to talk about Skulk very much just because I want to spend more time on the other things we're going to bring up.
Okay.
So at this time,
But Sulk will be a model that is morticians and
Rat
rat
catchers.
catchers. So do you think that what's going to happen here is they're going to release morticians box, rat catchers box, and then 2 individual models? So we'll still have the feature of having individual models that come out and are released on their own?
I think it'll be something similar to that.
Maybe it's just going to be a 2 model pack.
Yeah, I think it'll be something like that.
Okay.
It's one of those things where it's hard to say. Yeah, I don't know.
Because we know it obviously doesn't fit into one of the existing morticians boxes, and they're not going to make it into the 6-man rat catchers box. So they've got to do it some other way.
And I thought this is the last thing we're going to talk about, then we'll get into the next segment, is I thought it was really interesting with these new guilds coming out. They were talking about, they think that for the organized play, that they're going to drop the 10-man roster to an 8-man roster because of these minor guilds. Because they're going to be basically only able to have 8 max because they have
That's rough.
their minor guild and +2.
So what that's going to create is they're going to have to alter some of these models because they're going to see a lot of the exact same list all the time. Because what you're going to have to take is two captains that are able to basically take the same models but drastically change their playstyle with the same models. So with my butchers, I'm all good with that.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I can take the exact same list with either fillet or ox and maybe swap out a model and turn it into a completely different team.
Yeah, we'll see. They're going to reveal that stuff they said before Adepticon, so that's like March time period. So we'll see how they're going to change it.
I also wonder if those minor guilds are going to have a significant advantage, because if they're saying we can release a 6-man box and it's going to be competitive right away, as compared to you having 12 options,
Yeah.
that means that those 6 characters are going to have to self-contained create a lot of answers and questions that you could only
it's
otherwise.
6 plus 2 because they can use 2 from a major guild.
Either way, the same concept remains.
Yeah.
If you're saying that those few models are able to answer all of the questions that can be
So
presented
that's
by
what I
a
want,
major guild.
and that's what I want the listeners to think about too. Is just imagine breaking your list down to 8 and just thinking about what you would bring for all the situations you need.
I think that what's going to happen is we're going to see those minor guilds released, and they're going to be these cards that have tons of character plays and tons of character traits and all of those types of things that are... It's going to be more full of options than the average that you see from current guilds and current models.
So we're going to go ahead and introduce our new segment, and we're calling this one Rage Quit Classics. So I just want to say, hello, we didn't see you there. Welcome to the Rage Quit Classics, the most classic of Rage Quit moments in the gaming world.
Okay, so what we're going to do with this is we're going to start including stories about rage quitting that we've either experienced in a game that we were playing or that we've seen at an event that we were at. So we're going to have some really funny stories. We're going to try and spread these out a little bit. You're going to probably get one each time we do a podcast.
So there I was. This was at the Ard Boys tournament up in, I want to say it was in Nebraska. It was the semi because the finals were in Chicago back when Warhammer was a thing. So I was playing my Skaven list, and this was back when, I don't know, it's probably about 2008, 2009, somewhere around there. And it's Warhammer Fantasy. I was playing Skaven. So Skaven just came out with a new book, so they were kind of like the bee's knees. Games Workshop always makes the newest and greatest thing. So when it's a new book, it's usually more powerful. That's how they do it.
Power creep.
Yep. So this guy was playing Tomb Kings, which is the undead pharaoh-looking faction, and they were not good. They were a weaker team, weaker faction, I should say. They didn't have a lot of strengths, and they were all about these little gotcha moments, right? But it was hard to win, especially against a swarmed army like I had with Skaven. Skaven are these rat people, for those of you that don't know, and they just have, literally, you play with hundreds of models on your board.
That'd be a pain in the ass to paint.
It was. I had to paint the crap out of that. But anyways, so there was a spell. It was called basically Curse to the Horn Rat. I always called it the Dreaded 13 spell. It was one of the most powerful magic spells in the game. And the way it works is, if it goes off, you need a 26 on 4 or more dice that you can throw into this. I think the max was 6. You need 24 for it to go off. So on 6 dice, it's a little sketchy, right? It's kind of hard to get off.
Yeah, you have to roll all 6s.
So, but there's something in Magic, in the Magic phase, that's called Irresistible Force, which means on double 6s, it doesn't matter if you meet it or not, it goes off. So any double 6s, it goes off.
Okay.
There was a magic weapon or magic item that basically said any doubles you roll makes it irresistible. So if you roll 6 dice, you're probably, I think it's like 90-something% chance of rolling a double.
Okay.
Anyways, there's like a very, very small chance that you get 1, 2, 3, 4,
So you
5,
got
6.
janky as fuck with this. Okay,
So,
got it.
Well, here's the moment. So I go ahead and I wheel up my big unit that has my caster that can cast this very deadly spell. And with Tomb Kings, if you destroy the person that holds their army together, it's called, I think it's the Lich Priest. If you killed him, the army would literally start to crumble. They take leadership tests and they lose that many models a turn. So I knew this because, hey, I know how to play my war games. So I'm like, he put his Lich Priest in a small unit. He put it in like a 10-man unit. This spell, what it does is you roll 4d6 and it changes that many models into rats. They're just dead, gone. Now they're rats for me to use in the game.
Okay.
So I roll up and it's really close. It's a 24-inch spell. It's really close, and I barely clip it, right? So I'm like, okay, I'm going to cast this spell. I roll it. He's going with it. He's like, okay. I'm like, boom. I'm using this scroll. Boom. Irresistible. It goes off. And he's like, okay, blah, blah, blah. And then I'm like, okay, I'm going to roll to see how many of your guys have turned into rats. I roll like freaking 16 or something, right? And he only had 10 guys in the unit. I'm like, okay, they're all rats. And he's like, what? Like, yeah, whole unit's dead. They're my rats now. He's like, well, no. You weren't in range. I'm like, yeah, I was. He's like, no. And he started measuring it. Like, after he realized that I murdered that whole unit, he started, like, measuring it. He's like, no, look, this is not 24. I was like, listen. I'm like, okay, I'm going to roll a d6. On a 1 through 3, I'm not in range. 4, 5, 6, I'm in range.
Oh, you gave him that?
I gave him that.
Because I would have been like, yo,
so
we already moved up and already said what my intentions were, and you didn't measure it.
We were bitching at this for a minute.
Okay.
And it was really close. So I'm like, you want to know what? It is really close. Let's just roll off for it.
Okay. All right.
Because I felt
it's reasonable.
So I felt like even if I didn't get it, I was still going to stomp him anyways. So I roll it anyway. So I'm like, okay, I'll roll it. It was like a 5. So I'm like, okay, so that unit's dead. Roll it. And this guy starts getting huffy. He's like, this is bullshit, man. You're freaking, pulling all this jank and stuff. I'm like, it's like, I'm just packing up. I'm like, dude, we still have the game here. I'm like, you're going to forfeit all your points and you're not going to get any. He's like, no, man, you're just going to be like that. And I'm packing up all my shit. I was like, okay, I guess that's your option. And, if that wasn't it, that wouldn't be a real good rage quit story.
Okay.
So
it keeps going.
So it keeps going. So he's packing up his stuff and he's still like this. I'm like, whatever, dude, you can fuck off. So I'm packing up my stuff and I'm writing down the scores and stuff. And I'm sitting there all of a sudden, I'm talking with my buddy, man, who was it? I think it might have been Eric. But I was talking with it was Eric because this is our story. So we're talking, I'm asking him how his round went. And all of a sudden, one of the judges comes up to me. He's like, hey, man, come here, I got to talk to you. I was like, okay, this is weird. So I started talking to him. He's like, can you tell me what's happened during your game? Because this guy said you cheated. I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? And I explained how we rolled off for it. And he lost his unit and then threw his little pissy fit. And he's like, okay, that makes a little more sense because he was pretty livid. I was like, yeah, he lost his, caster and it cost him the game. And we rolled off for it. He's like, oh, he didn't mention that. I'm like, of course he didn't roll off it because he's a fucking dickhead. It's like, just, you gotta, I understand it sucks. But when you agree to stuff and then you roll off and then you want to go bitch to somebody about it, it's like, dude, it's a game. You got caught. Just fucking man up to it.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and don't say somebody cheated.
Yeah, he was...
Like, I mean, you could bitch about all sorts of things that went haywire in that, and be frustrated, but, like, to accuse somebody of cheating you.
Like, he wanted to straight up, like, get me thrown out of that tournament.
Banned for life!
Yeah, he's like, you're not allowed to play the game anymore, son. So that was my rage quit moment. The guy was a douchebag. He's a power gamer. I'm glad he got it, because he played 40K too, and he would do similar things to people.
You mean War Machine too?
No, he played 40K.
I thought this was a 40K story.
No, Warhammer Fantasy. So
okay.
They're two separate systems.
Okay.
Yep. So, anyways, I'm glad I caught him because, you want to know what? He did that to people all the time, except for I'm not a jackass about it like he was. So.
Okay.
So that was the rage quit story.
That's hilarious.
And
did he throw shit?
He kind of vigorously put his models away.
Just threw them in that battle foam.
I have, and I'll share this maybe sometime down the road after you share maybe one of yours. But I have had people throw models before at general areas of me. So we're going to go from one rage quit story to another because we're going to talk about this tournament that we had on Sunday.
This isn't a rage quit story.
It kind of wasn't.
Nobody rage quit it.
Yeah, it was pretty close a couple times. So anyways, we played a tournament. I played Engineers because that's what I played in our Kickabout League. And who'd you play?
I played the Brewers.
So, it turns out it was a small little 6-man tournament because, like we said, a bunch of people couldn't show. So, We're like, hey, we'll do short 2-3 round tournament. Depends on how standings go. And Chris and I got paired up in round 1.
Yep. So we went at it.
So, I ended up bringing Ballista because that is the drop into Brewers. If you play Engineers...
He brought it because he wanted to piss me off.
Yeah, pretty much. But if you want a good shot at beating Brewers, Ballista's the drop. So, I brought Ballista, Mother, Hoist, Velocity, Colossus, and Ratchet. And basically, I just brought Ratchet and kind of Hoist for some early damage in turn 1 and 2. Ballista, I basically set up, my goal was to control Tapper during the game, and then my other 3 pieces were designed to score and get me the ball. So, Chris, what did you end up bringing?
I brought Tapper, I brought Hooper, Mash, Friday, Spigot and the
Scum.
Cat.
Yeah. So let's just kind of talk about overall goals during this game. So what were you trying to do in the game, Chris?
I was just trying to get into your models, get engaged, and turn it into a melee scrum.
Yeah, and my goal was basically going to try to keep Tapper contained as much as possible with Ballista, and then basically feeding Chris a model while I try to get 3 scores, which is totally not my game for anybody that has ever played me or seen me play.
That's what you have to do. Like, that's what should be done.
But that's what
when
I'm
you have
saying.
velocity.
That's what I'm saying is that I knew that's what I had to do, even how uncomfortable it was for me to do.
Oh, I'm sorry you were uncomfortable.
So I received the ball, which was a problem because basically that means the Brewers can't really do anything against the Engineers.
No, it means that they don't generate any sort of momentum
Momentum.
at all. And you know, it's okay. Like, that's going to change with the new deployment, because this old deployment, like I've said in the past, fucking sucks, because if you get the ball, then you get to generate momentum and go first on turn 2. And if you don't get the ball, then you're just fucked doing nothing.
So, yeah, because I deadbolted Tapper and he couldn't do anything because he had no momentum. So you just stood him up and wasted the 6 influence.
Yep.
And now that I think about it, though, next time I play my Brewers, and if I go against a Ballista team, I'm going to bring, you know who you need to bring is Lucky, because he can remove that knockdown. It wouldn't have helped a ton during that turn, but at least, you know, he's up and getting in.
It doesn't matter, because with Ballista second winding and running like a bitch, it's not like I can get to Ballista anyway.
Yeah, I know, but what I'm saying is at least it gets him up the pitch instead of being so far back like he was.
Yeah.
So my goal basically was I got the ball, I kicked it out to Velocity, and I just ran her down the flank. There was a nice boulder kind of separating some of the action, so I kind of went around that. And my goal was to wait to see where Chris went before I committed to a goal with her. And I just wanted to put out as much damage, kind of try to spread the Brewers out. And that's kind of what I did on turn 1. The only other thing I really did is I did 8 damage to Spigot with Blasted Earth because I tooled up Hoist. So besides,
No, that wasn't turn 1.
Yeah, it
You
was.
did that on turn 2.
that was turn 1.
You sure?
Yep,
Okay.
because that's how I got my momentum to go first.
Oh, I thought it was because you have the ball, so you get to kick around, and I don't get
I
it.
only kicked, I think, 1 or 2 passes. I really didn't kick that much.
Okay. Anyway,
So what ended up happening after that is I kind of end up scoring. I still keep, during turn 2, I still keep it kind of loose. You do start getting some Brewers into me, though.
yeah, in turn 2. So by turn 2, I have the momentum advantage, and I think I was up like 3
Yeah, I think it was 3.
or something like that at the end of the turn. So I'm thinking like, okay, you know, yes, this did screw things up for Tapper with that deadbolt, and he wasn't really able to get into the game on turn 2, and he was still kind of running back into position. But I'm like, all right, the rest of the guys did some work, and I'm going to go first, and I'm going to start with Tapper, and he's going to pop up Commanding Aura and all that. But that didn't happen because my dice just fucked me. So this is the part that Pete and I disagree with, because he feels like I'm undermining his victory.
It's true.
When we all know that when you're up by 3-4 momentum, you should be winning those fucking rolls.
It is a dice game.
Yeah, that's fucking bullshit. I
But-
lost by chance.
Yeah, see, but I don't think that those few dice rolls are going to cost you a game.
I think if you're losing key initiative rolls, they absolutely
They
will cost you the
can,
game.
but the way the game went, I don't think that was going to cost you the game because I had the ball control and I scored a goal turn 3 with Velocity because turn 2 I didn't quite have the range because I had to take the long way around. So I ended up getting up 6-0 because I also killed Spigot with Ballista. So I mean, I was sitting there pretty good, 6-0, and then you finally started getting in and doing some damage to like Hoist and Ratchet and Ballista.
You may have still won, and that's possible, but I think that if I win that initiative roll, that I have the advantage and that I was an over 50% chance to win.
Nah, I don't think so with the way it was going.
No, because if I win that initiative roll at that point, you had 1 score.
Well, see, if you went, because you were going to go with Tapper first, because that's what you do, and he would have set up your team. He wouldn't have killed anybody because I had a few tough hide models sitting right there. So I think that even if you went first there, I still don't see a model dying there, so it's not setting me back any. I mean, you're there and you're doing stuff, and then I have to react to you, but I still don't think it's like, oh, that's where you lost the game.
I think
where you lost the game. So what ended up happening after that is you took out Colossus, so you got 2 points there. I think did you kill Ratchet, I think?
No, because here's why it's different than what you're about to articulate, is instead of me being able to... Velocity is fine, and I'm at peace with that. Like, Velocity's on the other side of that rock, and so I can't see her, and she can go score whenever she wants. So I have no problem with that in turn 2. The issue is, by you going first, you go first with Ballista and further break up my grouping. So, because you can further break up my grouping, that sets me back multiple turns again.
Yeah, and there's also Colossus activating and breaking you up too. But like I was saying before we got to that, because you're going to end up, I think you ended up with 4, and you took out Colossus, and I think Ratchet died. I can't remember.
Yeah.
But this is where I think you screwed up, and this is why I don't think you would have won it anyways, was because you kept putting the ball on MASH, which I get, but then that allowed me the opportunity to peel it off with the Spider. And I had the option later, if I wanted to, I could have done the same thing with Hoist, because Hoist can do the same thing the Spider can do. So I think you putting the ball on MASH, even though it sounds good with the unpredictable movement, with the Engineers, I think that's a mistake.
I agree with that. I agree, but I don't think that's what lost me the game. Like,
I think you did it twice, and I got the ball twice out of there.
That's true, but the first time you got the ball out of there, that didn't result in a score.
Yeah, but it puts pressure on the ball, so that way you have to react to that as opposed to killing my models.
So, in the end, though, the bottom line is, if I'm able to set up that scrum accurately and I actually win that dice roll, which I have a better than 50% chance of accomplishing, I should be in good shape. What I agree with what you're saying, and I think that stupid fucking mascot being able to overcome MASH's unpredictable movement is a pain in the ass, and you definitely catered it to an advantage, and it did influence that game. It was something that I had to react to, and you're right, but I don't think that's the issue, because if I'm able to set things up the way that I want, I can just kill that mascot or kill other more important pieces that are going to benefit from the mascot peeling that ball off later.
But here's why I'm saying that doesn't matter, that you're setting up Tapper first. That first, and this is why Ballista is a terrible matchup for the Brewers, is because even if you set up Tapper and get that commanding order, that train going, Colossus and the other pieces can manipulate you so much that he's going to break up your scrum.
It doesn't break up the scrum that same way when you set it up and Tapper's in the middle and there are other models behind him that are going to block him from being hit back.
Yeah, but I mean,
and even if he does get hit back, how far does the deadbolt hit him back?
That's only 2.
It's only 2, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so the commanding order is still up, and it's got a 4-inch reach, so you can still even go out further than where Tapper was.
Yeah, but unexpected arrival's 4 inches.
You're right that there are other factors too, but I mean, basically, what you're saying is, and this is why I disagree with you, is you're saying that me letting Tapper go first isn't a big deal and wasn't going to affect me winning that game. Anybody that plays Tapper knows you getting Tapper to be able to go first and setting up that train that way is imperative to you seeing
it is
Brewer wins.
But that's why Engineers are a terrible matchup, because the problem is they can break up your engagement and then it screws everything up. That's why I think, as a Brewers player, because that's my main guild, I drop Esters into Engineers.
Even if you want to say that I wouldn't have... we can disagree wherever you want as far as whether or not I would have had an advantage if those rolls went my way, or whether I would have still been at a disadvantage. We can disagree with that all you want. The point is, it became a blowout because of those fucking rolls.
Yeah, because I ended up getting 2-3 scores of velocity because I kept kicking the ball out to her. And then the one time for the game winner, she actually charged Spigot. She got her double dodge. She dodged 2 more inches out, and she kicked the game-winning goal in. I really love velocity as I've been playing Engineers because
Velocity is a great score.
she does such a great job at removing the ball from people.
Velocity is not a she.
It.
Did you just assume Velocity is gender?
I did.
She's Mechanica.
She is.
Wow. She again. Man,
So
you're lucky you don't live in California because you'd be thrown in jail.
The score was 12 to 4.
Okay.
It was 12-4.
Yep.
So it was a good game. I mean, you made me work for those goals. Like, I had to get pretty crafty with it.
Yeah, you did, and the fact that I lost some dice rolls is fucking bullshit. So, there's, despite the fact that we play these games and all of them involve dice, I'm definitely a player where I want to mitigate as little chance as possible. And so this actually leads to something else that I think our listeners will really appreciate, and where we disagree with some other metas, is we tend to gravitate toward a melee-focused playstyle. And the reason why, and you've mentioned this before, is saying that when you're depending on scoring, a lot can go wrong with that, and your dice can crap out on you. But when you are depending on melee and you're literally rolling more dice, that means that it's mitigating out the probabilities that those dice just go bad, because instead of you having to rely on 2 or 3 or 4 dice to hit and behave as normal or behave as average, you're relying on a charge, for instance, let's say 10 dice to behave as expected. And you're more likely to see those averages hold true as you roll more dice.
Yeah, I mean, so looking at it, I agree with that a lot because, like, for example, that game I played against Jake when he was playing his blacksmith scoring team, he probably should have won that game, but you want to know what? He was playing the kicking game and I was playing the melee game. When I missed my melee attempt to kill Alloy, I had another round to try it the next round. When he missed that goal, it's like, well, fuck, how am I going to get the ball back and score?
Yep, I totally agree with that. And so that's the reason why when you're looking, and I hope that this changes with the plot cards that Steamforge is altering, I would like to see a feature where you are rolling more die for that initiative, so that you can't just be screwed out of one die that goes 201. I would rather see you roll 2 and know that your average is going to be 7, and then you build off of.
So Chris is just really salty because he's had bad luck with the initiative roll for like a week, maybe even longer.
Yeah, that the initiative rolls are imperative to you being successful, and I hate it because they're pure dumb luck.
Chris does not believe going second is a good idea ever.
Who the fuck chooses to go second?
I do sometimes.
And how often does that work out well?
It works out well when I choose it to.
Well, okay, but what percentage of the time are you actually choosing that? Less than 10%?
No, I'd say it's probably right around 10%.
There's no way
Yeah.
out of like 10 initiative rolls that you win that you choose to go second one time.
Yeah.
I've played with you.
It doesn't come up when you and I
How
play.
how many times? Okay, so then what you're saying is against a lesser player that doesn't know how to use that advantage, then you're willing to pick to go second so that you get the momentum.
No, I mean, I've played against... I mean, you're going to put me in an awkward position here, but... You know, I've played against other players, and there's just some times where it's like, I really can't do much with this activation going first, so I might as well get the momentum.
Or the inverse, the other player can't do much with going first, and you know it, and so, because maybe they haven't set themselves up to be successful if they go first, but I don't make that error, so you're like, well, I have to go first, because otherwise Chris is going to do something bad.
Well, I think you play melee teams as well, and a lot of times you don't want melee teams going first.
Yeah, because it sets up their train.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So I think that's why I don't usually pick against you, whereas if you're playing a character play team, I might then choose to go second just because I'm like, I don't have a play here and I want to see where you go with this. So, I mean, I've done it with mainly controlling guilds, and if I'm doing more of a scoring
Yeah, I
team.
guess if you've measured out and you made sure that no significant threat
Yeah,
is within
and-
threat of you, then yeah, you can make them
Oh
go
no!
first.
I did the last time I did with you. Totally screwed you over. I had you go first when you were playing the Brewers, and I was playing the Farmers. And I said I'm going to let you go first, and you had no way to stand up people, and you couldn't activate, and we weren't engaged yet. And then I went in and started killing. Pine
Yeah,
Top.
but then there's that's a power issue too, because those OP farmers, there's a power issue between the two guilds at that point. Like, even though that's not a power issue between you and me as
So
players.
round 2, Chris, who'd you play round 2?
I played Clay.
Go ahead. What was the lineup generally?
It was like a matchup between two Morton Salt employees.
Yeah, so there was so much salt at that table, man.
It was just splashing out.
everywhere. So you brought the same lineup?
I brought the same lineup.
And Clay was playing Union, and he was playing. He tried Blackheart. He had the turtle in there because he didn't have the snake in his lineup, which I thought was a mistake. He had Gutter and Avarice and Greed. Is that right?
No. He had. Who did he have? Let me pull up the.
Because I think
don't
he had.
think he had Everson Greed at all.
He had Mist definitely.
He did have Mist. Sorry, let me pull it up here.
Yeah.
He's got Blackheart. He had Strongbox. He had Benediction. He had Harry. He had Mist, and he had Decimate.
There it is. So generally speaking, how did that game go?
Well, in the words of Clay, he was like, I told myself I wasn't going to get into a scrum with these guys, and I got into a fucking scrum with them. And you got into a scrum with me, and it was... And that one, the train just flowed like it was supposed to.
So when you don't want to get in a scrum with the Brewers, just kind of a general food for thought, you want to feed them your toughest model to kill. So like for the engineers, that was Hoist. So I was like, hey, here's Hoist. You can deal with him for a little bit while I'm trying to do things. And that's what you got to do with the Brewers because they're going to kill somebody. You can't really stop that. So you got to feed them a model while you're trying to accomplish bigger goals. So that was my goal when I was playing engineers. And I think Clay is still new to the Union, so I don't think he was quite sure how to pull that off.
He brought up, to be honest, a big factor is just a mismeasurement by Clay. He set out the Molotov with Harry,
Yeah.
and I kicked off with Tapper, so Tapper had some distance down the field. And he set up this Molotov that was blocking the route that I would have to take. But there was just enough space between the end of the AoE and the house that was in the terrain that I was able to take him around the edge of the AoE and get engaged.
Okay.
Because when Harry throws that Molotov, the reach of that Molotov is not very much.
Yeah, it's
only
like
6.
7.5 inches.
Well, it's 7.5 inches
7
because the
quarters.
center is 6 inches.
7.5, yeah.
But when you look at a model like Tapper, if he can go around that thing, he's got 9 inches worth of threat.
Yeah.
Because of the run.
Yep.
So I just didn't charge.
You just ran around.
I just ran around it. And that was... He wasn't thinking about it, but that was just a small error where he
The best
created
way to
enough gap.
use, and he'll learn this the more he plays, the best way to use a flame AoE template, a fire AoE template, is to actually put it in front of the model and don't touch the model. That way they have to go through it.
Yeah.
Like literally, if they're not going to go through it, they almost have to go backwards.
Yeah, so... Because then you can't clear the condition.
Exactly.
So... What I was able to do is I was just able to go
yeah.
around it on run, and then I attacked him, and then it's setting up everything up for
And
me.
how did he got a goal with
He got to
Blackheart.
go with Blackheart. This is another one, and this is just me learning the Brewers, so I fucked up here, but it resulted in a goal for him, is I took Spigot into Blackheart, and I got 2 or 3 successes, and I chose the Momentous Tackle, and I didn't think, I should choose Ball's Gone. And so after I got that Momentous Tackle, he got the ball back, and I can't remember what exactly he did. Let me see if I can pull up Blackheart's card, and it might remind me. Oh, he took the dodge and dodged out to where he was within 2 inches,
Yeah.
and I was outside of 1.
Okay.
So I should have chosen the other option, and that would have changed things, and maybe he wouldn't have scored. But I mismanaged Spickett's charge on that, and he ended up scoring with Blackheart. And
Yeah, I feel like as
it.
I've been watching you play these Brewers, I think you need to tighten up your turn 1 a little bit more. And I know,
yeah, that's hard to do when you don't have the ball.
well, no, it's not, because you have Friday and the cat, and you're not using it quite as effectively as you could,
Okay,
because
let's
that,
hear you expound on this.
well, no, it's that whole Pat Cat one where it's like you have the cat, you move Friday up, you move your 6 inches up because the cat goes 6 inches towards Friday,
Okay,
and then you have 2 influence on the cat at least. If not, hopefully you have Sikkim, and then the cat has a Shadow Like, and then you can charge. What's that? A 9-inch threat with the cat.
okay,
So the cat has pushes, not dodges. So the idea is whatever's close to the Brewers, if they're just barely out, you charge the cat in, get a couple pushes, move them up, and now they're in threat of Tapper or whoever.
Scum has a push
Yeah.
and 2 successes. Okay,
Yeah.
so
But he's probably going to wrap on certain models that you want to hit into.
you would wrap Scum
Get
and
2
then
inches push.
push whatever that model was toward Tapper.
Yep.
I also kind of wonder if I should use a model like Friday and bring her up right behind Tapper, almost base to base, for those models that are able to push him back.
I've done that before, but I've done it more with like Mash or Hooper.
Okay, so that might be a technique to use as well.
Because that was my goal if I get a ballista drop like you got into me, is to put something behind him so he can't be knocked down. Lucky would be another good model because then he can also remove the condition.
Yeah, but I would have to. I'm thinking about turn 1 where
Yeah.
you would have to activate the model first in order to do that.
Yeah. So what was the end score of your game with Clay?
12-4.
Okay. So my
Mine
game...
were. It was pretty much all takeouts. I did score 1 with Mash when I was already at 10.
Okay. So mine was against Joe, and he was playing his newfound Masons. He decided to drop Hammer just because Hammer's a little more direct damage as opposed to the I don't know, setup game of Honor.
I think this was smart of him because he probably recognized that he wasn't going to outscore you with an honor list.
And I dropped Pin Vice because I love Pin Vice. So and I was receiving. And those of you that don't know, probably like 90% of the time, Pin Vice is going to score on turn 1, whether you like it or not. Just because her legendary gives her so many dodges that basically she can get like 12 inches of dodges off her legendary turn. So I basically set that whole train up. I received the ball. I ended up doing legendary with her. She was my last activation. I ended up getting, I think, 4 successful kicks. So that ended up giving me 12 inches of dodge. She's already in 9-inch speed. So, I mean, that's already sitting there at, 21-inch threat, and she has a 6-inch kick. And if I needed it, I could have sped her up to. So I got an easy tap in turn 1. And then Joe made the mistake, though, is he came up and he started hitting on Hoist, and he got a bunch of momentum off of it. But he also had the ball, and he could have scored, but for some reason he held on to it. So
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah, people don't use Hammer like a scorer very often. I think they really should. He's got a nice long kick.
I think Joe was scared of getting in the scoring game with me. I don't think he wanted to score that quick because he was afraid I was going to snap it back real quick.
Which you would have.
I probably would have. But that's the thing, is you kind of got to gamble that, right? Sometimes.
Yeah.
So basically I think Joe ended up eventually taking out Hoist. He had, just to give you a quick lineup for his Hammer lineup, he had the Armadillo, he had Brick, he had Mallet, he had Tower, and he had Minx. So it was kind of a weird lineup too. I don't think he drafted that super well because I don't know why Tower was in there.
He did throw together quite the melee list.
Yeah.
It's a decent melee list for the
But you don't need Tower in there against Engineers. You know what I'm saying?
You only need him where they're going to be putting out a lot of
knockdowns. And Hammer already tools himself up basically, so you really don't need that. So I think
you definitely want to take models that are going to generate a good amount of influence.
So
for him.
I thought that was a bad draft on Joe's part. I thought he could have used somebody else, maybe like a Vet Honor or Vet Harmony, which he didn't have yet because I didn't put her together yet.
Oh, see, I wouldn't have taken Vet Harmony because.
Oh yeah, and there's not a lot of damage coming in.
Yeah, she doesn't absorb a lot. I would have taken Mallet.
Yeah, he had Mallet.
He had Mallet. Okay, Mallet. I would have probably taken Brick.
Yeah, Brick.
And let's see, Hammer. Did he take Marbles or Wrecker? Did you say?
Wrecker.
Took Wrecker. I like Wrecker.
Wrecker's
because
good.
Wrecker is able to knock people around. And then, so Brick.
You know, maybe this is a rare instance where actually Chisel might not have been bad because she has a 2-inch reach and I think she has an early tackle. And
She does have a momentous tackle on too.
and she's not going to get really damaged that much by the
That's
engineers.
true. And man, I should have shut up then because I made some comment about how Chisel wasn't very good right before he drafted. So I led him astray. But yeah, I don't think Tower was a terrible pick, but Tower is the classic Brewer, or excuse me, Mason. That's just jack of all trades, like not really great at anything.
Yeah, it just has a lot of tools for his
I
tool
really
belt.
want to find out. Somebody please tell me why they created this Masons team with no momentous results on the back half of their playbook. It's almost like they want to punish you for picking the back half of your playbook. Like, why would you ever want to wrap type of a thing?
Yeah, I'm not.
We need to find that out.
Yeah, I'm not sure, man. It's just one
We
of those.
need to find that out from like somebody that designed the game, not just like somebody's random ass opinion. So anyway, so you put it to Joe. What was the score of that game?
It was. I think it was 12-2. I think that was the only takeout he got with Hoist.
Okay.
I ended up getting another goal with Velocity. She stole the ball and scored, and then I stole the ball back and kicked it out with Colossus back to Pinvice.
Okay.
So I brought pretty much the same lineup minus I brought Locust instead of Ratchet, and I brought the Cricket instead of Mother.
Okay.
Because the Cricket has a better kick than Mother does. And I knew it wasn't going to be hard for me to peel the ball off of them. Mother I like bringing for models that are going to be challenging for me to get the ball.
Yeah.
Like MASH. Like
Well,
Mother,
I don't know why you would take. Mother should just be the default draw.
No, because so for Pinvice's Legendary, you want models that can kick it back reliably to you, and the Cricket has, I think, a 310 kick with its free, whatchamacallit?
Long bomb?
Yeah. So
3-8.
Yeah. Well, it's +4.
Yeah.
Yeah, so 3-8. So I like that better than just the 2-4 of the Spider. It gave me another Mechanica to mess with the kick on my Legendary turn.
Yeah, the Spider can just do so much to
It can.
fuck with people.
It can, but I knew I was going to go straight up scoring, so.
Okay. So that's where it went. We put that all on tiebreak, is that right?
Yep,
We're
got it
going to
all
start
on.
using Longshanks.
Yeah, we're going to straight up use Longshanks. It goes right into the system. Tiebreak is such a janky system. I don't recommend anybody using that for Guild Ball because the problem is it'll start switching players on you. It'll start changing scores. It's a freaking mess. So just email the guys from Longshanks, the admin, and they'll set you up with an account. And it's a lot easier to run. It goes right into the system. It's really clean. And I ended up getting the tournament because there's only 2 rounds, just because we only had 6 people.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yep. Hey, I earned it.
Yeah, you earned it off of my die.
That's right. And then Jeremy played Morticians. He got Best Sport, and he also got League Champion because he got the most points. And then Clay ended up getting Best Painted Goal and Best Painted Team. So that was really cool for him to get that.
Yeah.
And we also gave away some cool models.
And we have a new worst player in South Carolina.
Who's that?
Matt is ranked last.
Yeah, that was Matt's first recorded tournament, and yeah.
It's not that Matt's bad. It's just that it was his first recorded
Well, and
tournament.
he played lower ranking players in the state, too.
Yeah, so it
he would- like,
just
if he
shook
would've-
out that way.
if
Even
he
though
would've-
he didn't he get a win?
Yeah, if he would, see that's the thing.
He got a win and got ranked last.
Because if he would have played against like you or me and lost, he would have got ranked a little higher.
Yeah,
Because when you lose against better players, it actually brings your ranking up.
yeah.
So,
Okay. So you brought my ranking up.
I'd have to check.
I doubt it.
I think you're still where you are.
We're close enough to where I don't think you pull me.
I actually
forward.
jumped with that tournament. I jumped one of the Greenville guys. I jumped Matt.
I'm sure they must be pissed.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much they pay attention to it. I like it. I'm a competitive guy, so I definitely get on Longshanks every now and then just to check it out, especially after tournaments.
Yeah, I wish that they would weight head-to-head a little bit more.
What do you mean?
Head-to-head on Longshanks instead of just win-loss.
They do.
Well, because there are people that like you play, and you've played in tournaments, and so you should be... For example, the Matt thing, right? Like, if Matt got a win in a tournament, he shouldn't be ranked last in the state.
Well, it's one of those things where you got to also go off of volume, because it's like, well, they could have been lucky that game. What's the consistency of the other player? Like, how often did they win? Who have they played against? So it's this. It's not perfect.
I guess it also
It's not
balances
perfect.
out lucky wins when it's
Yeah.
not about head-to-head.
The
You
guy-
could just get lucky, and your opponent could have bad dice rolls, for instance, and you could get a win that way.
And this guy may be interesting to interview sometime. The guy that runs Longshanks, I've listened to him on other podcasts,
Uh-huh.
and he talks about kind of like why they chose that ranking system and kind of how it works out.
That'd be cool.
So, I don't know, maybe I'll reach out to him and see if he'd like to talk some more about it. Because I know he's talked on some, I think it was on Strictly the Worst he talked on.
Okay.
So-
Yeah. That'd be cool. It's always interesting to know, especially for somebody that kind of sets the pace for, is it the world?
Yeah, I mean,
As far as rankings?
it's world rankings. He
Whatever
has-
happened to Dark Orifice? Isn't that another one?
The guy stepped down just because it was just becoming too much of a project, and he set it up initially not to become kind of what it became. It just became too much kind of for the guy to handle.
Oh, okay. So,
So-
you're just like, I'm out.
Yeah, so it easily though transferred to Longshanks because they pulled all that stuff from Tiebreak, and now they have a direct. And if you haven't been to Longshanks, you need to check it out because they also have like a pitch planner. You can also compare your stats with another player's stats to see what the probability of you beating that player is, and you can even switch guilds. So I can say, okay, if I play my Brewers, how likely am I to beat Chris's Butchers? It's a cool function. It's called the bookie function.
Man, now I want to like fuck around with that.
No, it's cool. You can spend, an hour or so just kind of messing around with it. You'd be like, oh, how would I do if I played Pat Van Velza?
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. So
Are we able to figure that out for the people that we have to play at the American Team Championship?
we definitely could
Yeah, we should.
because they're all on there.
Yeah, we should figure that out.
And they're ranked like top in the country too. So
Well, I guess once we play them, win or lose, they're going to drag us up the rankings.
oh yeah, we're getting increased rankings whether we win or lose for sure.
In your face!
Because I know they're like in the like 500 or 600 like point wise ranking, and I'm somewhere in the 400s right now. I think.
Where am I? Am I in the 400s?
Similar, pretty
Okay.
similar, I think.
Cool. Sweet.
All right. Well, I mean that's all we're gonna pretty much hit on. The only thing that I have left to share with you guys for this podcast is we have a blacksmith release event coming up, and that's going to be on December 9th at the final round. We're gonna start at right around 11. We're gonna get set up. So if you're
11-ish.
yeah, I mean, because that's what I said. We get set up, and then we'll roll as soon as everybody's ready. So come into Charleston, get some games in. We're going to celebrate those blacksmiths. We'll have a couple of those anvils to give away. We'll also have those limited edition cards that turned out way better than the farmers ones. So those are going to be awesome to give away. And then we also got a ton of just stuff you can buy at the store, not just Guild Ball, but also board games and card
They've got
games.
that Dark Souls game at
They
the store.
do. They do.
And they're running a special on that Walking Dead game.
Yep. So they got a lot of stuff. They got X-Wing, Dice Masters, Magic.
Ruin Wars.
Yeah, Rune War. Like a ton of Rune War stuff. So yeah, come in, just check it out. Hopefully we can start getting some more people from out of town just to come enjoy these cool events that we're running, because I know not every town or city has a community that runs these events. But we'll take you. We'll take you. We'll let you in. We'll have some fun games. You know who's back in town? Our buddy Rick from Florida.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, he's going to be here till December. There's also a tournament in...
Well, it's time for us to do some battle.
Yeah. There's a tournament down in Georgia that's going to be on December 19th, I believe is the date. No, not December 19th. December, whatever that Saturday is. I want to say
That's pretty close to Christmas.
Yeah, it's not the 19th. I want to say it's the 16th. I'll look it up real quick.
So, like, just right after we do our farmer or our blacksmith release.
Yeah, it's actually the week right after. It's the
Okay.
16th. It's going to be probably somewhere between like an 8 and 12 man tournament. They have a few people there. I told them that we're probably going to bring a handful.
Where in Georgia?
It's like right on the border of like Tennessee and Georgia.
Isn't that like far away?
It's not too far away. It's a decent drive.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
You always got me driving all over the place.
hey, we love to travel.
It's a good thing you got a Prius, otherwise we'd be fucked.
That Prius, man. I'm the driver.
I'm all about having the Prius.
All right, we're gonna go ahead and end the episode. Y'all have a good one. Happy Turkey Day. Eat some food. Get some games in.
Pig out.
Yeah, later.
Later.